And by the way, I spent like 10 grand moving my data from Salesforce into Act.
Yeah.
And then spent another 10 grand
moving it
back.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Whoops.
So
Right?
the savings were all gone.
Lessons learned. Those are lessons in the entrepreneur bank account.
Welcome to Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. Brought to you by Elite Consulting Partners, it's the only podcast offering unfiltered guidance and direct advice for all things concerning financial advisors, RIAs, and the practitioners in the wealth management business. Learn more and subscribe today at eliteconsultingpartners.com/podcast. And now, here's your host, Frank LaRosa.
Hey everybody, welcome to Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. I'm your host, Frank LaRosa. Welcome to my show. I'm joined today again by our Chief Information Officer and I'll call it our local Jedi database solution wizard. I don't know if a Jedi is a wizard, but a Jedi, whatever. But Sue Cheema, welcome to the show again, Sue.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for having me. Excited.
We had so much fun the first time. We're going to do this again and again and again and again. So I call you is a Jedi really a wizard? Because the reason why I call Sue a Jedi is because she helps us with our database system, all things sort of data related. And I can come up with all sorts of crazy ideas about what I want our system to do and what kind of outputs I want from it, all that type of thing. And she just sort of can wave her hand and sort of make it happen like a Jedi does, like,
Mind tricks.
Right. What's that thing? You don't need these droids, right? We don't need these droids. Anyway, so today we are going to talk about, we're going to get into the weeds and we're going to get pretty detailed, which I know you love.
Love it.
You love that. So we're going to go down some rabbit holes of database solutions, CRM, all of those types of things, and why. We're really going to compare three systems.
Yes. And
the three main systems that are used within financial services and for advisor practices and RAs and the like. Really, what makes them different, why they're so unique to the space, and then you have like sort of 7 areas where you sort of define, or 7 categories. That we should be paying attention to, or advisors should be paying attention to when they're thinking about which system they should be using to get whatever goals they're trying to get accomplished. Yes. So why don't you just start with what are the 3 main CRMs that, and I say CRM, right?
Yes.
So what is a CRM? Why don't we start with what is a CRM?
Client relationship management platform, right? So essentially information that you are tracking, storing, pertaining to a client, especially for financial advisors, is what a CRM stands for.
Got it. Okay. And what are the main 3? I'm gonna take a guess with one of them. Just saying, this might be,
tiny bit biased there.
It's a little one. They're just a startup, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So what are the 3?
So we are going to compare Redtail, Wealthbox, and Salesforce, of course, that are the prominent platforms that I've seen financial advisors use. Okay.
So generally speaking, just sort of a higher level, and then we can get into the weeds. The higher level, what are the main differences in the 3 of them, right? Like, how do they compete? In my world, it's always how do they compare and compete with Salesforce?
Yeah. So the way I'm comparing these platforms is I categorized the research on 7 different topics, which is customization, analytics, which is essentially why you're tracking data, right? Data management is, the goal is, well, when we have information, then what do we do with it? Like, we have this information, now what? Right? And that's what drives business decisions right after. Integration, scalability, artificial intelligence is a key prominence in the next decade. Automation and mobile access.
Got it. Okay. So why don't you just walk through, I guess you want to cover each one, so Redtail and then the 7 key areas.
Yeah.
So why don't we just cover how they all compare in those 7 categories?
Perfect. So Orion's Redtail gives, it works for smaller, what I have seen generally speaking, it tends to be for smaller firms. It's catered to about 1 to 10 to 50 users, essentially. Not that, larger firms can't use it, but the idea was, hey, here is a simplified platform that financial advisors that are starting off can leverage to track preliminary information. And so Redtail, when it comes to customization, they provide templates to financial advisors because it's catered to financial advisors. What that means is it'll have basic information that they're looking for, which is KYC, investment preferences of their client, and there was another category that I wanted to point out.
So almost like I always refer to it as like an advanced Rolodex.
I think that's exactly what it is. It's an advanced Rolodex. It's like digitized Rolodex that you have access to from the cloud. So
how come when this is something I've come across this a couple times, and I thought it was weird the first time I heard it, and then I heard another firm that uses Redtail say the same thing. These firms that are out there, so if you're an advisor at a firm and the firm provides Redtail, that advisor is able to see everybody else's stuff.
Yeah.
Are you within Redtail? Do you have the capability to have multiple user licenses and have the parent license see everything underneath underneath them in what we call the child accounts, right?
Yeah.
See, I'm learning. The child accounts, parent-child accounts. That's about as deep as I go. But I thought it was unusual that an advisor can see another advisor's clients.
Yeah.
Is that unique? Is that or they just were cheap and didn't want to buy different licenses?
So unfortunately, and we'll really get into it when we talk about Salesforce because that's why it's so powerful, or one of the reasons it's so powerful. Redtail does not have a lot of organizational hierarchy options. And what I mean by that is, in our Salesforce, Elite Salesforce, we have roles set up. So you're the CEO, there's VP, and there are permissions assigned to each role that could be customized profiles. So I could say, well, Frank can look at everything. Sue doesn't need to look at everything. And we can set those visibility options in the profile settings. Redtail is not meant to be that sophisticated, or it's not that sophisticated.
Got it. So it wasn't that, because when I first heard it, I was like, wow, that OSJ is really being cheap. They're trying to get away with using one license. I'm thinking okay, yeah, they're using one license. They're sort of all sharing the data. But the reality is Redtail doesn't allow that kind of hierarchy, was the term, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's very limited in the sense that you could create some custom profiles, but majority of the time, most people can see most records that you're storing in Redtail.
Okay. So when you go through this other categories, so that was customization is pretty limited.
Yes.
Right.
Analytics. So Redtail has simple reports, not a lot of dashboards, and those are also templates. So if you're starting as a financial advisor, you could have activity or tasks associated to clients, notes, maybe accounts, active accounts, very basic reporting and
so
analytics.
When you say templates, does that mean that you, as a user, can't create new stuff? You sort of basically have to operate within their world, including different fields and stuff?
That's
or can you
correct.
Create fields?
You could create some custom fields. Again, it's very limited.
Okay.
I think where Salesforce could allow for 500 per object, in Redtail you may have 50, right?
Got it.
per object, which is opportunities.
What's an object?
Yeah, sorry. I was going to go right there.
For us simple people.
So essentially, like the way I like to talk about objects is like if you're using Excel, each tab in a worksheet is like an object.
Oh, got it.
So
Okay.
it's like information.
So a contact field. Contact is an object.
Yes.
Opportunities is an object. Leads
Yep.
is an object. So
Yes.
so an advisor might have, for instance, two different fields. They might have prospects
Yes.
and clients.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so it's really limited. What about
Integrations.
Yeah, so when you say integrations, yeah, what does that mean?
So integration is like you have a platform such as Redtail, and you have other tech stack SaaS platforms.
What does that mean?
Platforms on the cloud.
Got it.
And
What does SaaS mean?
oh my God, totally off my
Isn't
head.
it system as a service?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just
Yeah. Sorry.
blanked out there. No, blanked out there. So systems as a platform, as a service,
as a service. So really, when you talk integration, it's like, look, most of the types of clients that we work with, more so in the independent space, and even more so in the RIA space, like Black Diamond or one of the other platforms like that, eMoney, the planning software. So when you talk about integration between those platforms and Redtail.
Correct. So Redtail does have limited integration as well. I think it's by default comes with eMoney and one of the custodians.
Okay.
So you could integrate your accounts, financial accounts that are whatever
Okay.
your custodian is. You could pull in the account information pertaining to financial accounts pertaining to the households.
Right, but if
or
you're using Black
contacts.
Diamond or Orion, you're gonna have to run two or multiple systems, right?
Correct. And the ability to pull the data together is limited to impossible.
Got it. Okay.
Right? Unless you're like, okay, let's buy another platform that kind of pulls in information from Redtail, and
Right.
then we kind of do analytics from that place. Like, why not just go to a platform that kind of does that for you?
Got it. Understood. Okay.
Yeah. Scalability.
Right, which we're big on.
Yes. Ideally, the platform that you select through your evaluation process or requirements scales or grows with you. Not that once you start growing, then you're like, oh God, now I have to do a data migration, buy another platform.
Right, which is not cheap.
Not cheap at all.
Right.
So you could do the investment later on, and there's a risk of paying more, or you could start with like, hey, my ability to scale is XYZ, probability is this. Let me just invest in the platform that could do all of what I'm hoping for in the next 10 to 20 years.
Got it. So a lot of this, the scalability component, is part of the conversation that you have when you talk to a client that's coming on board with us.
Yes.
And they're sort of not necessarily new at this, but maybe they have a platform already, one of these,
Yes.
and you're trying to understand where they want to go. So it's almost like the question I ask advisors: what do you want to be when you grow up?
Exactly.
Like that's an important question to understand.
Yeah.
And so like the way we build our system is, if we had 300 people in our organization, what would the system need to look like?
Yes.
And that's how we build it.
Yeah, and I think that's why Elite has Salesforce, and it grows with us.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
So we're sort of giving away the answer to the test, which is which system do we think is the best, right? Anyway.
And the data is proving it.
Right.
Artificial intelligence, right? Like
Right.
everyone's talking about where technology is going to head in the next 5 to 10 years, and artificial intelligence is going to be will have a huge presence in most platforms, and Redtail does not have any. So
Okay.
it's like almost close to using an Excel. Not that we're saying Excel is bad,
Right.
but it's
I
just
love Excel.
it's just kind of simple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Real basic.
Real basic.
Okay. And then so I think when you get into maybe Wealthbox or I know Salesforce, you'll get into, well, how are they using
Artificial
AI?
intelligence, yeah.
So that'll be
Yep.
interesting. I can't wait for that.
The next category I want to talk about is automation,
Right.
which is huge in anyone's mind, right? Like, so Redtail provides automation related to tasks, recurring tasks. So you could kind of go in and say every time there's a client call or we are onboarding, like these are the 5 steps that just pre-populate. Simple workflows like that, nothing complicated, no triggers from records. And I'll break that down in the sense that if a user goes in and says, Frank was a prospect, now he's a client, in platforms like Salesforce, you could have entire automation or workflow just triggered because your status just went from prospect to client.
Got it.
Redtail does not have the ability to do that.
Oh, okay. So you have to, they have to like enter the information all over again, or can they just change it to, you're saying they can just change it to prospect to client,
right?
But then there's no, they have to then
there's no workflows.
They have to re-input automations or processes related to becoming a client.
Correct. Like there isn't, like we could say, once a prospect becomes a client, assign, get relevant KYC document to a client service associate so they can start the process, right? Which is a status-based workflow.
Got it.
Not able to do that in Redtail.
Okay. So how would they do it in Redtail?
Essentially, it's a lot of the automation is around task management, which is like, let's do recurring tasks. Let's do, yeah.
Like auto pay. Like it's almost like auto pay, auto task.
Right.
Which
is with onboarding as an example. If a client onboards, these are very limited, managed 5 things we're going to do. There isn't a customization on, tier 1 will do these 5 things, tier 2 will these 10 things, nothing like it, just standard 5 recurring tasks.
Got it, right.
Yeah.
So, all right, so really just in a box, so like
Yep.
It's almost like CRM in a box.
Yes, I think that's a good way to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
The last one I have is mobile access. And that is not an option for Redtail at the moment.
Got it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're not all that high on Redtail. I'm just guessing. I'm just making an educated guess here that you don't think Redtail is all that good. Why do so many advisors use it?
I think it's because they perceive it to be a simpler platform and a cost-effective platform.
Okay.
Whereas I'm here to prove or kind of educate some of the financial advisors that the cost-effective notion could be adjusted based on who you're buying those licenses from. And the ease of use perception could be adjusted based on who you hire to set that up for you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Right. And down the road, the cost savings can get wiped out if you decide that you have to move from Redtail to Salesforce, let's just say.
Correct.
Where that could be $15,000, $20,000, $25,000
very easily
to move all the data. So basically you saved a few dollars for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And then because you now have to move everything and try to retain everything you have, you're paying a firm substantial, and I did it, by the way. I moved years ago. I moved from Salesforce. The pricing was much different then than it is today, which is great, but it was more expensive back then.
Yeah.
So once you got over 5 users, you went, like, the price jumped exponentially. And so I moved to I think you're going to laugh at me, but I moved to ACT.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. I grew up on ACT, so it was easy for me to do. And, and for what I was looking for, like Redtail was not suitable for what I needed, right? So ACT was appropriate. And it worked out for a little while, but it just didn't have any of the automations, workflows, data points, all that other stuff. And so we were on ACT for maybe a year or so. And by the way, I spent like $10,000 moving my data from Salesforce into ACT.
Yeah.
And then spent another $10,000
moving it
it back.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Whoops.
So
Right?
the savings were all gone.
Lessons learned. Those are lessons in the in the entrepreneur bank account, right? Deposit, right? And so you learn these lessons. That's why we're doing this. It's part of the reason why I'm so adamant about this, is because you might think you're saving a few dollars because a Salesforce user license is whatever. I'm not going to quote prices here, but in Redtail is like a fraction of that or half that or whatever it is, but you end up paying for it in the long run if you're trying to grow your business and you want to retain all your data when you do it. Obviously, you're seeing here that Redtail is just simply not a great CRM system if you're trying to build an enterprise business. If you're a sole practitioner, maybe you have an assistant.
Yeah. Entering the information.
It's sufficient if you're not really trying to do anything complicated.
Right.
Or maybe you don't care about the data around your business and your company, which
analytics,
I don't
right?
even understand that as an entrepreneur, but I don't understand that. Or if you're W-2, obviously it doesn't matter. But all right, so Wealthbox.
Wealthbox. My perception of Wealthbox is it's even more limited than Redtail. But it caters to the financial advisors. What the ideal firm size they claim is, or not claim, but
target,
suggestions, right? Target is from 50 to 100 users.
Okay.
And so going through the categories here for Wealthbox, customization, again, very limited. They, just as Redtail does, they provide templates on KYC contact information, financial goals, and investment preferences as an example.
Okay.
Not much you could do to add or update how a page looks and feels, or any of that.
Okay.
Analytics, very limited. Again, templatized reports and dashboards. Not much development. Limited dashboards. Whatever they give on business development side, which is leads, prospects, client KYC, essentially around task management and activities as well.
Okay.
Integration, very limited. Whereas you'll have by default, I think it's risk analyzer, which is risk management for financial advisors, and e-money, but not at the scale with Salesforce.
Okay.
Scalability, I find it to be limiting because you can't really go beyond what is created as a data structure for you.
Okay.
Right.
Does it allow you more like hierarchy, like we talked about with Redtail, that you can do some level of hierarchy?
Unfortunately not.
Oh.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Artificial intelligence, none at the moment. Workflows and automations, limited as well. There are certain templates that you could play around with.
So what's the difference between Redtail and Wealthbox then?
Very similar. Target sizes are a little bit different, meaning Redtail still wants to kind of keep it to small to mid-size, but the definition is, let's say 1 to 50, whereas Wealthbox is also small to mid-size, but the definition is maybe from 1 to 100 users.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And mobile access, none at the moment as well.
So it sounds really exciting. Sounds like a system.
You can see the excitement on my face.
I want to go out and run out and sign up for that, right? If I'm an advisor building a practice, I definitely want to explore Wealthbox. Not. All right, so let's talk about what we both are near and dear to our hearts.
Oh, I love it.
Right.
So excited.
And that is Salesforce. So you want to get if you're listening to this, get a notepad out. So Salesforce obviously is the biggest in this space, right?
Yes.
But Salesforce has all sorts of what do they call them? Not platforms, but
clouds, or modules.
Clouds,
yes.
Right. There's
So there's
Sales
Sales Cloud,
Cloud,
Service Cloud, Financial FSC, Financial Services Cloud.
So that's just for financial advisors. That's where I was going with this. They serve all sorts of companies, not just financial practices.
Very wide array of
So what did they do
industries.
so what makes the FSI platform different?
So FSC is
FSC, sorry.
yeah, no, that's so FSC. Salesforce did almost like 5 to 8 years back, and there was this push within financial services industry towards technology, kind of transformational push, and Salesforce said, hey, these are a couple of standard objects, right, like tabs within an Excel that financial services industry uses. Let's create a template,
Okay.
wrap it in a platform, and release it.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then start from there. So basically like, hey, listen, here's what 80% of the people that are using Salesforce and financial services use or have it look.
Yeah.
Start with that.
That's correct.
Got
Though
it.
I'm here to even say that for the cost-effective approach, because Salesforce is highly customizable, we can go into Sales Cloud, which is one of the cheapest version, and build some of these objects for financial services.
Okay.
So it's cost effective, gives you a lot of the automation, the integration, at a cost that is that is acceptable or approachable for a growing firm.
Got it. So when you go, so your first category in terms of customization,
Yeah.
total opposite then of
Oh my
Redtail and
God.
Wealthbox.
I mean, and they recently released.
Isn't that can't that be a bad thing?
Sometimes it's overwhelming, and I think that's where like having a consultant in the room who's done a lot of implementation around certain use cases can speak to can build that out. So you're not looking to say, oh my God, like I have 10 fields that I want to create. I want to track all the bells and whistles. The approach there for me is because you hear customization, I can do anything I want. It's like, whoa, what do I do?
Right.
Because I have worked with a lot of financial advisors, I have KYC information, right? Let's start there. What is the custodian going to require of you when they're opening an application?
Right.
And
Yeah. All right.
just create those fields.
What are the fields on the application?
Exactly.
Right.
Let's start there, right? And one way to think about the fields, especially creating new custom fields, is what is the objective behind each? What are you trying to understand about either the client, the process, or how can it benefit the business?
Got it. Right. Right. So like down the road, how can that field
Yeah,
be useful to you in some way?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So customization on Salesforce.
And again, you can
Yeah.
you can have when we talk about objects, you can do this and build this customization, or within Salesforce it allows you to build this customization for clients as an object, right? As a tab.
Yes.
It's called. How about we call it a tab?
Perfect.
Got it. Okay. Client as a tab, and then you can also have prospects or leads as a tab,
Correct.
right? Where does like opportunities come in?
So the hierarchy or the data structure that Salesforce has is you have accounts, which is the household or a group of people.
Okay.
In a household, as an example, they could start as a prospect
So it could be the LaRosa
family.
family as the account.
Correct.
And then within the LaRosa account is Kim and Frank
Right.
as contacts within the
Correct.
client tab.
Right. And now, there you go. And now we could have opportunities within the LaRosa family. Like, okay, Frank has $1 million and we are managing $500,000 of it. So
Got it.
there is still an opportunity for the
So it
remaining.
could be like Bill, not we'll say Frank, but so Frank was retiring from Merck.
Right.
And he's got $1 million 401k.
Right.
So that would be listed as an opportunity
Correct.
tab.
Could be. Yep.
Right.
Because what the ideal thing for a lot of financial advisors is to kind of understand what the wallet share is that they're managing,
Right.
and how to get more.
Oh, so the opportunity, so there could be multiple opportunities under one
Correct.
client,
Yep.
because they could have a 401k, they could have an account at Merrill Lynch
Yep.
or Morgan, wherever, it doesn't matter. And so that's the wallet share.
Yes.
And then in theory, you can run reporting around those clients with all sorts of data, like, okay, what percentage of the client's wallet share do we have based on that information?
Right. And then we can use all the information we are storing about this client and say, oh, they have life insurance, oh, they have investment properties, oh, they have estate planning. How do we optimize their investment strategy around that?
Got it.
Right. That's
indoor marketing, right? If you know that
correct.
If you're collecting this data, if you're collecting all of this data up front, and again, thinking about why do I want to collect data? Because it's going to how you're going to use it. I always say garbage in, garbage out. And if you bring really good information in, then you can extract it in a positive way. Example, if you're collecting information on clients that have whole life policies, I'm just making something up here, right?
Yeah.
So if you just have a checkbox or a field or whatever, right? Then you decide how are we going to generate more business this year? How about doing a webinar on whole life policies or what? I'm not an insurance guy, so
right.
And then you can pull up through a report or a list all of the clients within your database, within your client database that have marked a whole life policy of some sort, right? And so now you have an immediate market that you can go after on a topic versus sitting down and going, all right, which clients do we think have whole life? And remember, didn't John say he had a whole life policy?
Right.
It's collecting all that data.
Exactly right. And the difference between FSC and, let's say, Sales Cloud, if you want to be cost effective, is that FSC has life insurance as an object.
Got it.
And on customization, when we talk about objects or these tabs in an Excel, where in Excel you can create a new tab, it's a new object. So the powerful thing about Salesforce is you could create, investment properties tab. You could create life insurance tab. You could create annuities tab, right? Estate planning tab, COI tab, like anything that you want to track and curate. Salesforce gives you that ability to create that data structure that Redtail and Wealthbox does.
Got it. So let's talk about analytics.
Yes. So through the acquisition of Tableau a couple of years back, Salesforce was able to really dive deeper into analytics and where it is today. So we are able to create complex reports and dashboards and personalize it per user or profile.
Got it. Like, give us an example.
So Frank, as the CEO, wants to see the new onboarding clients that are coming in every month as an average and how long it's taking them. Whereas a client service manager wants to see what is my to-do list today, this month, and allocate their time accordingly.
Got it. Or one that just came to mind is if I'm the owner of an OSJ, I want a report or a dashboard that shows net new flows.
Right.
Month to date, year to date, whatever.
Recruiting.
Right. But then I want to be able to, within that, I want to see, if possible, where the net new flows are coming from in terms of the underlying advisors in my OSJ.
Correct.
Right, based on their practices, because we can build hierarchies.
Yes.
Right, so that you as the owner can see everything that's in all of your advisors' systems, right? But those advisors can't see each other's things.
That's right.
So you'll be able to track flows, because I want to report I want to see that stuff. But then we want to be able to create a report or a dashboard, not a report. Well, it's both, I guess, right? Yeah. Really, it's the dashboard is really a report in color, right?
That's exactly right. It's an aggregate.
So, but I want then that underlying advisor to see what their net flows are.
Yeah.
Right, because I want to basically have the same type. So we're all looking at the same stuff.
Yeah.
So you can
different angles.
Right, different angles. Yeah. Right. So analytics. Analytics is about understanding the practice that you have and what's going on within the practice, so that you can then make decisions. You're informed about the data, and then make appropriate decisions. And for me, as our data has gotten better and better and better, it's allowing us to make quicker decisions.
Right.
Because the data is right there.
That's exactly.
Surprisingly, good and bad.
So
sometimes.
powerful.
Right. Okay. Integrations is a big one.
Oh my God. So Salesforce has over 3,500 apps that you could integrate with. And that does not include custodial integration as an example, right? Or, if you're doing data structure, like if you have an old on-prem database, you could even connect to that through other services. So anyway,
I don't understand anything you just said there just now. An old on-prem, what do you mean? On-premises?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Got it.
So ideally, if you have a tech stack where Salesforce is powerful, is it could create that ecosystem. I know we talked about it last time we did the podcast. The intent ideally should always be
so reporting, billing.
Correct.
So whatever reporting tool you want to use, whatever billing service system you want to use, whatever retirement, wealth planning system, whether it's e-money or whatever, it doesn't matter, right? All of that stuff can get integrated, so you basically have a single source
of truth.
Right?
And you get like this holistic view of your client instead of saying, "Oh, here, let me go see my performances," or "Let me go see what the retirement platform is saying," or these are the funds. Like you pull all that information and everything pertaining to the client today and their investment goals. You could create like this ecosystem around that.
Right. So if you're on the compliance side, and as a sales guy, it's rare that I talk about compliance and what's benefit for compliance. But as a compliance officer, that allows you then to see everything by having this hierarchy.
Yes.
They can go in to see everything that's being pulled in on a particular client.
Correct.
So doing audits, all those things becomes much, much easier because it's all right on their desktop.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And scalability.
Easy sell, right? Because Salesforce, due to its ability to customize, integrate, and provide analytics, is highly scalable as your business grows. Users, right? As your users grow, as your demands grow from the platform, it scales with you and helps and provides the decisions that actually helps grow your business.
Right. So when we talk about scalability, it's how many users are you going to have, and then within the hierarchy of those users, who gets to see what?
Yeah.
Adding a new user on is very simple because if they fit a certain category, a certain hierarchy, then the workflows or the permissions that new you don't have to basically go and redo the thing all over again.
Not at all.
You just assign them to a hierarchy level or role, whatever.
Yep,
right.
Yep.
And boom, that's what they get.
That's right. So we can mimic an organizational hierarchy into Salesforce through roles and profiles. So we could assign, just like I said earlier, like you could assign CEO to Frank, system admin to Sue, or and then what you see versus what I see, what is important to you versus what's important to me could be curated when you log into Salesforce.
Right. I'm just thinking like if you brought interns in, right, you might want to have a very low hierarchy for them where you don't want the intern to see
or edit
assets or be able to able to edit, delete, change, whatever.
Right.
Right. So it's not just about what you see, but it's what you can actually do.
Oh my God.
Within that contact.
Right. Like it's so powerful that you could even say like, do I want this user to be able to read, write, edit, delete, modify? Like you could control all those based on your profiles.
And that's not just, I'm speaking because of our knowledge, how we do it. That's not just the whole contact.
Yep.
It's you can limit
per fields. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you can also within Salesforce you can track like a history of you can assign fields that you want to track for any changes, who did what and when. So be like, hey, what happened to this person? So it's really it's come in handy sometimes with us for sure.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of customization that you get that you don't get with one of these other firms. So what's and then
artificial intelligence.
Yeah, here we go. They might be running some commercials about this. I'm pretty sure, right?
Agent Force everywhere.
Agent Force. That's what agent. So you see these commercials on CNBC about Agent Force. This is what it is.
Yeah. So absolutely love it. We are using it at Elite. We just released it. What's powerful about artificial intelligence in Salesforce is you could go into a contact and say to Einstein, hey, like summarize this contact, this household, everything that's pertaining to this person, give me a summary because I'm going to go meet with them in 20 minutes. Whatever relevant information you ask specifically, it can create that content for you without you having to look for it for the next 8 hours or prepping for it, as an example. So it's impromptu, it's quick, it's detailed. You can create email drafts, you could create follow-up emails because it's summarizing and consolidating all that information that it has.
Right. You can create workflows based on, it can look at your system and understand the data that you have.
Yeah.
You can create a workflow where you actually have to tell it what you're trying to achieve, right? Part of AI is, what's a whole nother
prompt
conversation.
builder, yes.
Right, is knowing how to prompt AI,
Very key.
which takes practice.
It takes practice, yeah. So in Salesforce, though, what they have done is they have taken OpenAI as like the first layer and placed Einstein on top of it. So it'll collect information from the internet, and then combine the information that Salesforce has in a secure and private way, and push out specific to what you're asking.
Right, and it's like your own private
AI
a
model.
chat.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Right. Because it's based on the information that you put into it. Got it. So again, the other ones don't have that. I guess you can use AI for some of it, but what Salesforce does is it pulls it together and it really pulls your data in and allows you to sort of just helps you. I mean, look, if you're not using AI today, at least to learn. You're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
Okay. And so
Automation,
automations, which is one of the ones that I love.
So highly customizable, highly, you could automate most tasks in Salesforce. A couple of examples that we talked about last week, onboarding a new client, K1s, RMDs. So as we talked about with Redtail, like not only is it recurring tasks, it could also be like, hey, this client went from status active to status, God forbid, former client. Like, okay, how do we, detach ourselves from this client leaving us?
Or like, can you have something where if net client, I just thought about one, like what I would want to have is, most good practices, you have your clients segregate into certain categories, right? Gold, silver, bronze, or whatever it is, right? Or bronze, silver, gold, whatever. Platinum, right? You can actually have workflows that when a client goes from gold to platinum, right? A certain set of services. Mm-hmm. So if your gold clients are only getting one meeting a quarter or one meeting every 6 months, and they get a certain gift or they get a certain whatever you're doing for the holidays or whatever it is, right?
Right.
When they go from a platinum client, meetings are automatically added because now they get 4 meetings and they get a higher level gift or whatever. Their Christmas, their Christmas gift goes up, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You can create that trigger when they go from gold to platinum. That's creates workflows that get assigned to people on your team automatically.
I did this workflow a couple of years back, and I still love using this as an example because I thought it was so powerful. When the mortgage rates were going down, we built a report around all the investment properties that this RIA had, and anytime the current mortgage for a client was above what is the rate today, we would send an email out like, hey, by the way, maybe it's time to, refinance or consider refinance as an example. So like cool stuff like that, that you may not be able to think about at an individual level. Like we could do through reporting and automation.
Right. And one of the things that we've been talking about a lot is video letters, video emails, communication, both to clients and prospects.
Yeah.
Because, again, we're talking about clients here, but you can do a lot of automations within the prospect tab, object tab, which I believe they call leads.
That's right.
You can create automation so that when new prospects go into your system, right, once that the creation date, right, you can have the creation date is today. 2 weeks after the creation date, they get the first email. Then 6 days later, they get a second email, the third email. And then on the fourth one, there's also a task assigned to someone on your team to then follow up with that prospect.
That was spot on. And I'm so impressed that you actually, this is how we build a workflow. Create date plus 2 weeks, you know, plus 30 days, plus 365 days. And you could have like...
But this is how when we talk about automation, it's also really under the scalability.
Yes.
Because this is allowing you not necessarily to scale your system. It's allowing you to scale your business.
Yes.
Which is the biggest component, right? Because if you can do it the right way, maybe you don't need to hire as many people, right? Or maybe you want to hire people, but now you're giving them more work to do. So for you as the owner of the organization, you don't necessarily have to think about all these things. Your job is to fill the top of the funnel with new people, right? If you're watching this on YouTube, you know I'm making a funnel thing. If you're listening to this on Apple iTunes, you should be watching us on YouTube. But so you're building these things, these automations, so that your marketing system is ever evolving. It's like a live thing.
Yep.
And you're not. I was talking to one advisor, and he says, "Yeah, I have a bunch of young guys, and they prospect and whatever." I said, "Okay, how do you track?" How do you track like how often they're contacting the prospects?
Yep.
Or when the last time they contacted someone and what happened? Says, well, they basically, like at the end of every month, they give me a spreadsheet.
Okay.
I'm like, really?
Right.
Like,
it's tedious.
Wow.
Yeah.
I said, so how do you know they just didn't fill that stuff out like right before they sent it to you? I said, well, I guess I don't. Right?
Yeah.
So within Salesforce, you can create all these things and you can see when they entered that information.
That's exactly
right. Whether
right.
they're actually following up with those people. Right. The create date, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, you brought in, maybe you're running a 401k company, maybe you do 401k business and you're a retirement plan specialist and you do meetings, educational meetings, and you're meeting with a bunch of plan participants.
Right.
Right? Well, you want to probably automate how you reach out to those plan participants because that's really what you're looking for.
Exactly.
And if you go meet with them, you assign those leads to a young guy and he or she doesn't call them for weeks.
Yeah.
Right? You just blew it. Right? You want an automation to be done right away, maybe from you as the owner first, right? And then follow-ups. Or if you work with a marketing team, this is a pitch to our marketing company, right? We create videos with you, and the video goes out basically acknowledging that you met with them, and here's what we do, and click the button below if you're looking for an appointment. You can create these automations that are driving people to book appointments with you right away. This is what I think is the most exciting thing about using Salesforce. As we've gotten better and better at our organization, it's like, how can we make this thing happen with one less click?
Yeah.
And then one less click. So you can become really, really super efficient.
And my brain is like short-circuiting because I'm coming up with like so many examples for that kind of automation, like life events.
Right.
Like client relationship platform is all about like being sticky with your clients and understanding everything that's going on in their life and their implications or impact on their financial standing. Right? So someone's son gets their first job, they're having a baby, right? We have those life events tracked in Salesforce, sends out a gift because they had a baby. What do they need to start? Should they start?
Well, you create a VSL about
Right.
when you just had a baby. Okay, you probably need to think about insurance. You probably need to think about estate planning or will. Like things that you need. So creating automations that automatically go out once
updating beneficiaries.
Updating beneficiaries is big, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay, so the last one, which is mobile access, I obviously.
Salesforce has it.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, I'm asked like, okay, so what? I can access it. Like, I think the most powerful thing with mobile access is, the example I give is like you're at a golf outing and you meet a prospect and they give you their email address or their phone number and you're like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to add it in my, phone as, a random number and go at work, enter it in Salesforce. You don't have to do that. That gap can be eliminated because you have that Salesforce app right in your phone. You can access contact information. You can access anything related to a client right on your mobile device.
Right. For where I loved it, as for an advisor is, I envision advisors when they're leaving a meeting with a client, right?
Yeah.
And they may not understand. I don't know if this is an iPhone thing or I know Salesforce has this ability. But you can go into the notes within a client page object tab, right? And click a button on your phone and actually voice record notes into Salesforce.
That's a great example,
right?
Yes.
So just left John's office. We had a great conversation.
Yes.
Need to send him information on updating his beneficiary.
That's a great example.
He has a 401k rollover.
Yes.
Like talking to it right into the phone.
Right.
And it goes right into Salesforce.
Yep.
Then everybody at your office sees it immediately.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. That's where I look at mobile
case.
access. That's the way I look at that.
I love that example. Yeah, that's powerful.
I don't do it as much as I should, but it's there. It's there. But look, you a lot of these things you have to get into the habit of doing them. But that's how powerful this system is. Look, all of these are designed to help your business operate better.
Yeah. And help you grow.
Yeah, help you, right.
Like efficiency, less redundancy, help you grow, give you ways to improve on current processes.
But there's a reason why Salesforce is the 10,000-pound gorilla in the space.
Best in class. Best in class.
It's not a debate.
It's, yeah.
And I look at when I talk to advisors about these things and they bring up cost, I look at it not like insurance, but like what's the value of your business? What's your business really worth long term? And put the cost in relative terms.
Yes.
What are we talking about?
It's an investment.
Right? It's like Moneyball. What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Right? It's an investment in the future of your company because, by the way, if you want to sell your practice down the road, the system that you use can add or detract from your valuation.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have good data or you have a system like Redtail, right, and your buyer, the buyer of your company only uses Salesforce,
right.
Well, they're going to take into consideration how good the data is. But if you have Salesforce and you have all these integrations and you have all these automations, analytics on your business, a buyer will pay you more money. I know that for a fact because that's what we do on our M&A side. So you need to stop looking at the cost, air quotes, cost of Salesforce over a Redtail versus Wealthbox or any other CRM system, and look at what is the value that you're getting for the investment that you're making in your business and in you and your team.
Yes.
Right? Like we talk about a lot of these things. One of the biggest beneficiaries of a better system is the support staff.
100%.
Right?
100%. And with Jedi, like you get variety in skill set as well as like extensive experience, right? Like there are few instances where an advisor will come to me and say, "Oh, have you done this before?" Yes, I have. We can solve the problem faster, better because we've been in the industry for so long.
Right. So, what Sue's referring to is our service that helps advisors, RIAs, OSJ owners, not just advisors. So you don't have to be an advisor if you own a large enterprise.
Yeah.
These are things we can do because we've seen it for so many years. Sue doing it on that side, me on the 30 years in this space dealing with the ACTs, the Redtails, the Build Good marketing system. Within Salesforce, one of the things we didn't touch on is marketing cloud. Right, which is the integration. What we're able to do is really save clients money, because a lot of them are using Constant Contact or whatever the other newsletter ones are, MailChimp, right? Yeah. You can do all of that stuff right within Salesforce.
Yeah.
And you can save money on getting rid of the other system and have it all done together, so that when you're sending out a newsletter or you're sending out some other email blast or whatever, it's capturing all of that activity in all the contact history.
Yes.
So you know exactly what kind of emails that client was getting.
Interested in even, right?
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. And then the data in terms of, are they opening it?
Yes.
Like how many clients are opening. All the same data. You get that data in Constant Contact too, but it's all in one place. You don't have to go to a different place, log in and see all that information. It all feeds into one location. So when you're looking up your client or your prospect, you can just look at the history of that account and see exactly what's going on with that account. I sort of describe in an ideal world, like with our firm, anybody should be able to look up a client of ours or a prospect, right? And look at the account history and know exactly what's going on with that client/prospect based on the activity history.
Yep.
And that's how you as an advisor need to think about how do you know when your system is being fully optimized, right? And everyone's using it. Can you go in as the owner of the firm and look at a client that you had not talked to, because they're not your immediate client, or they're not under your purview, or whatever it is, and can you tell what's going on with that client and how healthy that relationship is? If you can't, then you have to do a better job.
Right.
So, listen. So I know this is a lot of stuff, and obviously it's quite apparent how we feel about which system, right?
We're here to help.
But look, we're here to help. Exactly. Our job is always to help an advisor find the best possible solution to whatever problem they're trying to solve. Right. In this case, we're talking about databases and CRMs, right? And it's clear that Salesforce is. So if they want to talk, if they have questions, if someone's listening and they have questions, they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
By email, and the email is sucheema@eliteconsultingpartners.com.
Awesome. You can also email me at frank@eliteconsultingpartners.com, and I can connect you to Sue.
That would be ideal.
Because that's what's going to happen. Or you can just reach out to her directly and save that trouble, right? We've been more than happy to talk to you about what you're doing. Think about where you're trying to go with your organization. The question I ask is, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you want your system to look like when you grow up? Where I have a lot of fun with Sue which has really gotten us where we are, is if you understand how your CRM should work, right? If you understand you don't have to understand it like Sue understands it, but I know enough about the system in its potential capabilities that allows me and my management team, not just me, but allows me and my management team to think about what else could we get out of it, right? What else could it do?
Right.
And that's where Sue comes in, because she's able to, like a Jedi, just sort of make it happen, right? I can promise you, when you start to learn more about your system, when you implement a system like this, and Salesforce is the way to go, obviously, the more information you have, it'll start becoming an addiction to what else can we do? What else can we do? What other data? What other dashboards? Oh, can we build this dashboard?
Yes.
How about this dashboard?
Yep.
Once you start to learn, there's so much that's going on underneath the surface in your business that you don't know about. It's really important that you understand that stuff, or at least have access to it and you know where it is, or somebody on your team has access to that information. Because you never know when you're going to need it, and it just makes the business significantly healthier. So anyway, with that said, I know that was a lot. A little bit longer podcast than we normally go to, but that was really useful.
Yes.
So you're more than welcome to listen to it again. And that was awesome, Sue.
Thank you, Frank. Love doing these.
Listen, she loves it, because whenever we talk about this stuff, she's smiling from ear to ear. So it's like that old strategic coach thing, right? Find the right people, put them on the right seat on the bus, right?
That's right.
So when it comes to this type of topic, Sue is the right person sitting on the right seat, clearly. So we hope that we can help you on that. We hope this helped. If you want to share this with someone, we really appreciate it. If you want to learn more and talk about this more offline, you can we'll obviously comment on LinkedIn. You can hashtag Advisor Talk Podcast, and we'll keep this conversation going and come up with ideas and other questions. Thanks a lot for listening. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. If you're looking for more advice or solutions on any topics in the financial services industry, or you just want to subscribe to our podcast, head on over to eliteconsultingpartners.com/podcasts.